Hi everyone. Chào tất cả mọi người. I'm very happy to be the first in this TEDx event. Okay. So today I would like to talk about education in this new era. It's something that I've been thinking of for a couple of years. This is how I started. There is a day in our country that I think all of us, all the students or former students remember very well. That's the 20th of November. That's the Vietnamese Teachers' Day. All countries in the world may have their own respective Teachers' Days, but the one in Vietnam it's really, really special. And that's why I talk about it. I talk about teachers. And I have this one question. Have you guys ever had a super teacher? A super teacher with superpower that looks like this? Yeah. I know one teacher like that. She's the former teacher of my baby girl, my 5-year-old daughter, and she has one superpower. The school has hundreds of students, and she can remember the names of all those hundreds of students. And she can also tell about the characteristics and the personalities of each of the kids. That is a superpower, right? Her superpower is memorizing. Do you have any teachers like that? All right. So I believe that she had spent a lot of time learning about her students and to understand them, of course. And understanding students is crucial for what we call today student-centered learning. That's not very new, but that's a very sophisticated approach. I won't dig too deep into that today, but I just want to tell you, it starts with something that's really, really simple, which is that you learn about the learners and you learn about their needs. We focus on them. Okay, so now the problem is student-centered learning it's only possible when the teachers have enough time. But how about a class like this? This is a class, a very, standard primary school class in our country. How many students can you see in this photo? All right, yeah, it's nearly 50 here, and that's just a part of the photo. There's another part as well. All right, so the average number of students in the class, the primary school today, it's somewhere between 50 and 60. So now the question is, how does one teacher, this lady here, does she have superpower? Maybe she does, right? Because yes, she has to care about all those kids. It's not like, okay, consider this. You are a university student and you can learn in a study hall with hundreds of students, but you can take care of yourself very properly, right? But with these kids, they can barely take care of themselves. Their basic needs like eating well and going to the toilet, and the teacher has to do all of that. So how does she manage to understand about all of the kids when she has so many mundane tasks to do like that? So that's the question I think that we should really think about today, especially when we want student-centered education. So consider our whole country. We have, for the whole country, we have 23.5 million students in the whole country. And that's why we need not just one super teacher, we need millions of them. So, for me, I'm not a super teacher. I cannot remember that much. There might be some super teachers out there, but well, I guess there are not too many. So let's come back to student-centered learning. When we think of that, a country with student-centered learning, we can immediately think of somewhere in Northern Europe. So in this picture, you can see this is a Swedish classroom with a very small number of students and one teacher. So the teacher has enough time to spend for each of the students. And yes, she can understand about all of them. Okay, I won't go too deep into the differences between Vietnamese and Swedish education over here. But the point is, it's very hard for us to deliver student-centered teaching with our country, with a large young population. So it's impossible, isn't it, to do that? Or is it? So today we are living in a very different age. Now we have artificial intelligence. As you may tell, it's something that can be actually used to create student-centered education. And I'll show you. In the next few slides, I will show you how that can be done. Okay, what I will present here is just one example. There can be other examples out there. So over the past few years, I've been developing an application, an EdTech application that focuses on test preparation, standardized tests like the IELTS, and that's called PrEP. Okay, so what does it do? Okay, and how could it help a teacher like me in delivering student-centered education? Okay, so I will illustrate that. So over here, let's say we have a student, and that student is taking a speaking test using a microphone. And what he does is, well, he will record his answer, and the answer will then be analyzed by a machine. And that machine is using speech recognition technology, and it can tell, for example, all the pronunciation errors of the students. And if the student makes an error systematically, like with, for example, the ending sounds, the computer is able to understand that, and the report will be sent to the teacher, which is nice. So the teacher don't have to see to listen through like 50 pieces of recording, 50 different recordings. But it's not only that. The computer can also send a notification to the student and the teacher at the same time, and arrange a meeting between them. They can read the timetables and the working schedule of the teacher, for example. And well, when the teacher and the student come to that meeting with the problems already identified, the teacher may then help the student very, very fast. All of that thing can happen very fast. So in short, a computer in this example can identify and address the learning problems of the student. Okay, from a technical standpoint, this sounds, okay, it's not very complicated, it's pretty simple. But from the perspective of a student, this is really meaningful because they know that their problems will be identified and addressed. They would know that, okay, this education is actually tailored for me individually. What's better than that when you go to your school? But it's not the only thing that the artificial intelligence can do. So over here I will show you the VARC model of learning styles. Maybe you have heard of that, or some like or something relating to that. I would say that there are different kinds of learners. So maybe you learn better by looking at illustrations. You read the text, you understand nothing, but when you look at the graphs and the charts like these, you start to understand. We will call you a visual learner. And some people learn better by putting on earphones and listen. All right, so my daughter is an auditory learner, just like that. Most of the things that she has learned is through, listening. She can pick up the pieces of information very quickly and arrange that in a way that it's for her when she listens. And maybe you are that kind of auditory learner. But some other people learn better by, by reading and writing, of course. We call them read and write learners. They would need to read texts. And some people learn by using like words and text like these. And finally, we have a kinesthetic learner. Sometimes we learn kinesthetically. That means we learn by recreating the experience. And through that process, we get knowledge and we improve our skills. What kind of learner are you among these four? Or are you of a different type? And does your teacher, or do your teachers know that about your preferred way of learning? Do they know that? Well, from a teacher's perspective, because I'm a teacher myself, let's say I don't know about if they have 10 students in the class, I can do that. 15 I can, but more like 50 students in the class, like in the previous, in the slide that I showed earlier today, no, I can't. I'm not a super teacher. But the machine can do that. So, yep, I would say that a machine can really understand about you, and it can do that by observing your learning process. If you first use an application, maybe, it doesn't, but the more you interact with it, it starts to understand about you. It can measure the performance of you throughout time to see what is the right method, what is the most suitable method that is just for you. And then it can use that to give you new learning contents in such a way that you can learn most efficiently. Okay? So, right, I talk about addressing the specific learning problems of learners. I talked about the learning methods. But how about the whole learning journey? For the whole learning journey, we need more than that, right? But that can be done using machine learning. So the machine can actually learn from the previous users, from the old users, and use that data to predict the learning patterns of new students and their new learning problems as well. And all of that can be done. So for the first few times that you use an application like Prep, maybe it can tell you. We can arrange, you can create a learning journey that is suitable for you. All right, so the question now is, what does it take for an app like Prep to do that? Of course, the first thing is users. The app needs users because it needs data, that's what it really needs, and a good algorithm, of course. And finally, it needs some time. Well, let's say 1 or 2 years, could be more, but what I mean, 2 years, for example, it's not a very long period of time. So I would argue that the change, the revolution that you will see in the field of education is going to happen very soon. Could be 2 years, could be 5. It is not something that's too far away. It's right there, and it will happen. So today we talked a bit about, well, a small class where student-centered learning is possible, that the teacher has enough time for each of the students. And we also talked about this one, a big class with 50 or even more students, where the teacher cannot do that. And we also talked about artificial intelligence, right? Okay, so I would argue that student-centered learning can turn all teachers into super teachers if the teachers choose to use it, to apply it in the process of teaching. And from the student's perspective, let's say we would have one teacher for one student. The computer would do all the mundane tasks I mentioned earlier. So, yep, that sounds nice. So let me tell you something about the benefits that each of us may get from this. For a student, of course, it's time saving, and the specific problems, your problems, will be identified and addressed. And we can learn with our suitable learning styles, and the whole learning journey is well tailored, that we feel, well, it's just for us. And from a teacher's perspective, yep, we no longer have to do like mundane tasks, so we have more time, and we can use that time to talk to our students, to understand them, and to inspire them. And what I see, this is the future of education. This is the best sense of student-centered learning possible, and it will happen. This is the sustainable development of education for you, for me, for everyone. Thank you for listening.